Good afternoon, guys. In this lab, we're going to perform a demo in Hibernate on EC2 instance. So let's go ahead and click on instance and launch an instance. So I could call this instance my web server. Now, by the way, let's go ahead and take a look at on Google. What is Hibernate and EC2? Okay. Now, what is EC2 Hibernate? So when you hibernate an instance, Amazon EC2 signals the operating system to perform hibernation suspension to disk. Hibernation serves the content from the instance memory RAM, which is random access memory, to your memory elastic block store Amazon EBS root volume. So now this is not Amazon, so I like to take the resources from the real channel. So let's see here. So Hibernate your on-demand Linux instance. When you hibernate an instance, Amazon EC2 signal the operating system to perform hibernation suspend to disk. Excuse me. Hibernation saves the content from the instance memory RAM to your Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS root volume. Amazon EC2 persists the instance EBS root volume and any attached EBS data volumes when you start your instance. So the EBS volume is restored to its previous states. So what happens when you restart? The RAM content are reloaded. The processes that were previously running on the instance are resumed. Previously attached data volume are reattached, and the instance retains its instance ID. So you can hibernate an instance only if the hibernate if it's enabled for hibernation and it meets the hibernation requirements. So just explain this. This is pretty short as a as an overview, but let's just jump into the Amazon portal and create our instance. Let's choose Ubuntu. Choose Ubuntu. And so instance type, we would always want to leave this on free tier eligible. Now for key pair, if you want, you could create a new key pair or either use an existing one. Now in this case, I use an existing one, and either the network settings, you could either create new network settings or use some existing ones. As in this case of me here, I'm using my web server group as an existing one. Now configure storage. I will skip this for now. I'm going to scroll down to where it says advanced detail, and I'm going to stop on here where it says stop Hibernate behavior info. So I'm going to just click this little arrow here and enable it as it was told on the lecture, which right there says if you can hibernate an instance only if it's enabled for hibernation. So let's go ahead, enable this. Now, if you follow along with me, you will see it says that to enable hibernation, space is allocated on the root volume to store the instance memory RAM. No, it already is random access memory. Make sure that the root volume is large enough to store a RAM content and accommodate your expected usage. OS application to use hibernation, the root volume must be encrypted, and the EBS, which is Elastic Block Storage volume. So what that means is that if you go here, see on the storage here, like you click advanced, say show details. I'm sorry. So see, add new volume, and then you could either leave this 8 gigabit of size. This is good. Now the encryption that it talks about here is just that you have to encrypt this, and on the KMS key, which is key management system, I'm sure yes. So it's key management system. So what is KMS key? So overview, AWS key management system gives you centralized control over the the cryptographic keys used to protect your data. So the service is integrated with other AWS services, making it easier to encrypt data you store in these services and control access to the key that decrypted. So, so, so basically, what that means is that you have to make sure that you enable this, and for the KMS key, you could either select the default AWS EBS, so that all that is into it. Now, and this is pretty much all that you got to do. So now our EBS volume is correctly set up, and then we have an 8 gigabit volume, which right there. So our EBS volume is correctly set up, and then we have an 8 gigabit volume, and that is enough of storage. Because if we look at this if you want to, you could select snapshot. I don't think I need any of those right now. And the RAM, a gigabit. So all the RAMs fit on the disk, and that is good for us. So we have to set up everything. Let's go ahead and just making sure that we have everything that we need to make this work. Okay, so now let's go ahead and launch our instance. So launch launch failed. Why? Hibernation, the root device volume must be encrypted. Well, it was encrypted, wasn't it? Did I do? Let's check. Choose encrypted, wasn't it? What is beside this that Okay, so the snapshot is just this, and that should be it. What is this? Fail. So let's try again. We have GP3. Okay, the deletion thing. Let's click this on yes. The KMS is on default. The IOPS is this. Bang, bang. Device name. You could do dev.x xv. So not sure why this doesn't work, but it should. So just double check again to make sure that we get everything works in order and decency. So snapshot can only be modified on EBS devices. So what do we do wrong on this? EBS. Okay. So this look like volume 2 when we should have volume 1. Okay, so that was my bad. I'm sorry. So let's encrypt and let's do this custom because it looks like we had a volume 2 instead of volume 1. I apologize for that. I didn't pay attention to this. So that's basically all that was the reason that it didn't want to work. So now it should work. Bingo. So I'm sorry, guys. So view all instances. And now it says it's pending. So let's just go ahead and just give it some time and refresh our instance to make sure that we get everything works as accordingly. Okay. Now, okay, guys. So, okay. So now that our instance is running, let's just making sure that. So we have set up everything. We have enabled our our Hibernate. So now we're gonna be using the EC2 instance console, to console into our machine. So let's go ahead and connect to it. So there is one special command called uptime that quite special because uptime allow you to know for how long the instance has been turned on. So now, see, I'm sure it's online right now. Let's say we say ls. Say we ping Google.com. So it's pretty neat. And let's say we say uptime. Now you see how it says it's been up for 1 minute, right? So that's our uptime on this instance. Now you see it says the uptime is 1 minute. If we were to go back to the instance right now and we select it, now that we have enabled the Hibernate on our instance, if we click here, we would have not only stop instance, reboot instance, but we also okay, so we also have the Hibernate instance. Now, if you click on the hibernation, on the Hibernate instance, and so then the Hibernate instance, this is going to make sure that all of the data on the RAM is stored onto our EBS volume. So we are hibernating the instance, and so we need to wait for it to stop. Let's go ahead and hibernate this. As we read here, it says that when you hibernate an instance, Amazon EC2 signal the operating system to perform hibernation suspend to disk. Hibernation saves the content from the instance memory, RAM, to your Amazon Elastic Block store, Amazon EBS root volume. So Amazon EC2 persists the instance EBS root volume and any attached EBS data volume when you start your instance. So that's exactly what we perform here. So let's just refresh. Now you would see the miracle of that is this. So we have stopped, our instance, and we waited for it to process. Now, let me show you what I mean. If you go to instance, you select it here, you see it says the instance is being stopped, right? So let's say if we were to go to connect to the instance, let's refresh. Now you see it says failed to connect into your instance, blank, 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 blank. So now let's go ahead and we're going to start the instance again. Instances, start instance, and refresh it and just give it some time for it to shows until the state says that the instance is being started. So it's pending, right? So it's going to make sure that all of the data, like I said, on the RAM is stored on our EBS volume. So now, as we're going to start the instance again now, if we do it, so we just need to wait. So now it's running. So if we go here and refresh the instance, so remember earlier it was just 1 minute up. If we do an up arrow, let's see if we would find that. Okay, so let's say we type in uptime and we hear that, you see it says it's 6 minutes since the instance been running. So how long has the instance been on since its last restart? So we can see now we do uptime and we are getting 6 minutes So what that means is that the instance has been up since 6 minutes. Okay, so that's the beauty of Hibernate. So even though that you hibernate the instance, so we get our uptime to 6 minutes because this was really quick. So the idea is that even though that we have stopped the instance is in the Hibernate, then we started from the operating system respectively. The instance was never stopped. It was Hibernate. Therefore, the uptime command gives us 6 minutes because it has never quite stopped. So it's been stopped from the operating system respectively, right? But this is the whole idea behind hibernation. So I appreciate you guys for following along. Stay tuned for another lab configuration. I'll see you soon.